Alright, so in the last video we talked about the percent equation, and I promised that in the next video I was going to show you how to use that equation in order to plug these numbers in and solve. So if I had to write it as the variable symbolism that we talked about in the last one, it was A equals P times W, right? Which was part equals the percent times the whole. And as a reminder, anytime that you're working with a percent, it always has to be a decimal, always. So, decimal. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this first problem real quick. So, what number is 35% of 80? Alright, so remember in the last video I talked about the first thing I'm going to do is see if there's a percent. Well, I have it right here. That is my percent. So, in my equation right here, I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a decimal, and that is 0.35 right there. So, I have 0.35. So what number is 35% of 80? So a lot of times when you hear a percent and then a number, like this, it's asking you the percent of the whole. So what I'm looking for is probably going to be the part. Now first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do my multiplication, and I'm going to put my whole down in my equation. And then I'm going to represent the unknown, my variable, with the symbol. So in this case it's A, right? So A equals 0.35 times 80. Now in class when I talk to you guys, what I try to explain to you is that if you have the numbers that are on the same side as the equation like this, you're only going to multiply. Alright, you're going to multiply those numbers together, and that's going to be it. So let's go ahead and take 0.35 and times it by 80. So according to my calculator, it says that the answer is 28. So that would be 28 equals 0.35 times 80. So if I'm not super sure about this, I can go ahead and I can just take this 28 right here and divide it by 80 and see if I get my 0.35. And I do. So 28 out of 80 is 35, or 0.35, not 35. So here I was looking for my part. I did it. I checked it. I'm good to go. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one. So, and I say so a lot. I'm really sorry about that. 8 is what percent of 5? Remember, first thing I said I was going to do is I was going to look for percent. I see the word. I don't actually see the number. So my very first thing I'm going to think about is that I'm probably looking for the percent. So in the equation, right away, I'm going to put my variable down. 8 is what percent of 5? So percent of 5, remember, 35% of 80. This is more than likely going to be my whole. So I'm going to multiply that by 5. And 8 out of 5, so this would be my part. Now, just like right here where I said that if you have both of the numbers on the same side, you're going to multiply. If you have numbers on different sides of the equation, you're going to divide. And the reason you're going to divide is because you are trying to get the variable by itself. And the only way to get the variable by itself is to get rid of this number right here. And the easiest way to do that is to divide it by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. Rather, I'm going to divide both those numbers by 5. Now, so that's just going to stay 5. I'm going to divide 5 by 5. Like so. So now I have 8 divided by 5 equals P. So if I took my handy dandy calculator and I did 8 divided by 5, it would be 1.6. So 1.6 equals P. But remember, I'm looking for what? I'm looking for my percent. So in order to turn that into a percent, I gotta move this over not 1 but 2 times and put a 0, and my percent would be 160. So, and that makes sense because it's 8 divided by 5. So if I gave you a 5-question test and you somehow got 8 questions right, you're going to get higher than 100%. So 160. If you want to double check that, you can. You could take your, because we already did 8 divided by 5, right? So if I took, if I took 5 and I times it by 1.6, I would get 8, like that. So there are a couple more questions on here. I would like you to go ahead and solve these ones on your own. So I'll read them to you real quick. What percent of 125 is 50? And then the other one is 12% of what number is 48? Solve those, show them to me, and that's that.